it seems it's showtime right now, so hi there. And before I introduce myself, let me introduce the topic. So it's called the hacked and cleansed side, or why the IoT devices is a new battleground for cybersecurity testing. And if you are familiar with the security testing itself, so it will help you to test and set up the things right. Well, let me introduce myself. And my name is Bohdan, the full name. I'm originally from Ukraine, but feel free to call me Paul, just first two letters. It should make things easier. And I have more than 12 years experience in testing, so it includes like different things, manual automation, performance security stuff. Of course, IoT, I'm like a deep and enthusiast in this area. And I founded an Enbosoft agency like 7 years ago, and we provided the QA services and trying to make customers' life easier and products more reliable and secure. So I'm really kind of a big fan of quality assurance and not breaking the things for the purpose. I like doing that, and I really happy that these breaks kind of gives some benefit for my customers and improve their lives and they love the products in their end. So as a former basketball player, you can notice from my height, I strongly believe that, I like the team sports and I strongly believe that quality is a team sport as well. So if you want to make the strong and reliable product, you need to go in a team and like push them in using help of professionals from the side. And also I believe that this, my height, it will not help me to play basketball well, but just to see the bugs from the mile ago. So yeah, if you like find something, let me know. And before we start the presentation originally, so I just have a few questions for you guys. Just please raise your hands, those ones who are familiar what IoT stands for. Very nice. Another question, just covering its Internet of Things, and I will cover this in just a bit later, but how many of you guys, just again, raise your hands, have faced it or used the IoT devices on your daily basis or probably at work or just in past? Nice, great. I can spoil a bit and just would say that everybody of you are using those devices on a daily basis because they are in your pockets, on your hands, even in your homes, in your cars, everywhere. So IoT is around us and probably not the most of population, but a big part of it even don't know that surrounding us things, familiar ones, are from the IoT realm. So let's play a game. Everybody of you probably have some smart TVs in your homes, or maybe some smart vacuum cleaners, or even different things with a smart word in the very beginning. So everything of those, even smartphones, of course, is an IoT device, because IoT, or Internet of Things stuff, it's something which is connected with other part of the system with such variety devices and connected to the servers, cloud, internet, whatever. So it can be just two devices, device A, device B. It can be device A and some cloud, device A and some server, a group of devices, whatever. But even starting from two small devices which connected between each other over the Bluetooth connection or whenever, we can easily call this IoT. And the one fun thing that, not a fun really, but it's a true fact that all of these devices can, and do it well, they're gathering information which user can share with it. So for example, the vacuum cleaner can grab and store the plan of your houses, of your apartments. The TV can store some credentials or even data you're browsing for. And the fridge, for example, I mean, I know this current smart fridges can even make some orders over the internet to like buy the products and like groceries for you. Every of those devices are collected information about the end user's information and stored somewhere. So before you are not so famous, you know, and or some kind of property or like government structure or any other structure would like to collect this information, you are probably safe, but you just need to know that this information are collected and gathered by those devices. I couldn't say that it's too bad or it's like dangerous for now, but it's still information and it's still stored somewhere. Just quick recap and some statistic data. So around 15 or even more 15 billion devices are connected right now. I mean, based on the 2025 year over the world. So it means, I believe the population is around 8 or maybe 8.5 billions. So almost every second, no, every guy on the planet has at least 2 devices, and it's tremendous. So it includes smart homes, hospitals, cities, cars, and as I said, even your phones, even this ring, it's also a smart one. It collects some information about me, about my steps, calories, whatever. So, and it's everywhere. Again, it's in your homes, in your garages, even in critical infrastructure, because everything wants to go digital right now, and everything wants to like store this information and manipulate it. And another not too fun statistic thing. So in 2023, you can see that the amount of the attack, I mean, cybersecurity attack of the IoT device was kind of a bit lower than in 2024, so the last year, and it collects like multiple millions per month. And I found the statistic for the beginning of this year, so it's even right there. It kind of explains that the amount of devices has grown up. The users easily can believe them and easily share the information with them. So the attackers can use that in their bad, let's say, goals. And just to share some insights why it's too difficult to create a proper framework, create a proper approach to secure your system, I just want to show another chart right here, and just to mention that IoT system, it's kind of not only one device, not maybe even 2 devices, it's a system, it's a complex of different hardware and software and like some API connections which work in like huge system which communicates between each other. And if we're talking even about the, let's say, simple web-based application like some website that has only one page with a login and password field, etc., it's pretty straightforward to catch which exactly kind of cyber attack can be run through this website. But in terms of IoT things, again, the complexity, the variety, and constraints here, because of complexity of the system, amount of devices make things unexpected, because you need to guess the flow, the exact flow which attacker should use to manipulate and to get into your data. For example, the smart ring over here, so there is some hardware piece, I mean, with some sensors, some kind of indicators, etc. So it gathers information on the ring itself. Afterwards, it's sending it to my phone over the Bluetooth connection, and then phone sharing it through the internet, let's say, to the cloud, and calculation are happening there. So even from like the very first view, there are 3 communication channels here, but in real, it's like way, way more. So, and the attack can happen on each of this level. So that means that before as a QA engineer or just like a proper user who and explore the functionality of a smart device, you need to think about layers, security layers, and like set up it properly. So if you need to think as an attacker, just to think about the complexity of things. And the main attack vectors I want to highlight here, I mean, it's not all of them, but the main one and the fundamental ones that can kind of go to the most important and most frequent attacks are the next one. It's open ports or default credentials. So for example, usually when someone buy a new router, Wi-Fi router, I mean, or some other device which can be easily connected and set up using the instruction from QR code, not a lot of people follow the extended instruction to change the default credential to set up it some in a proper way. Even when you create a user account somewhere, the passwords, I mean, not you guys, but statistics say that a lot of people doing that, the passwords are something easy to guess. And there are proper database of those easy passwords, which can be just brute force and selected. Another step is unencrypted data. So unencrypted data means that the connection and authentication thing is not set up properly, and the passwords or usernames can be gathered easily by sniffing the API calls and through a network. It's goes us to the next step, to the vulnerable APIs. So API itself should be set up properly as well, and I will share with you on, I believe, in 2 or 3 slides, the proper tools and methods how to, I mean, of course, from the quality assurance perspective, make sure that your API infrastructure are safe. And of course, from my side, the most important one is outdated firmware. It sounds like very, very easy thing that you need to update your kind of firmware, software, whatever on your devices as soon as it comes out. But a lot of people just forgetting about that or just complaining that the new firmware can cause some bugs, some instability issues, etc., etc. And yeah, they just delay this update. But from the other side, almost nobody just reading those release notes were saying that some security issues have been fixed here and some kind of leaks been covered there. So yeah, just don't forget to update the firmware as soon as possible. And this slide probably will be most interesting for those guys who are actively working as a QA engineer and switching to an IoT realm, I believe, or their project, and include some IoT parts, or they're going to look for some IoT related positions, like some embedded tester, let's say, or you can be called differently, like automotive tester, like industrial IoT tester, whatever. But there are a list of tools and purposes which kind of can be solved using by these tools, which I'm actively using for years right now, and I'm highly recommended to you guys to use them as well. Even you are enthusiast and just want to check how your home vacuum cleaner is working, you can also just play and go ahead. It will work as well. So let's start. The scanning purpose. So under scanning, I mean that there is some network over here, and you need to know which kind of packets, let's say, or some messages, not message in the way which they are sending, for example, some messengers, like just some amount of text, but some network related like packs of some bytes of information are sending, which ports are using here, so which and the endpoints as well. And for those scanning things, my favorite one is Nmap. It's a shortened version of Network Mapper, and it's highly recommended because, first of all, it's open source, it's free of charge, and it allows you like wide functionality to check your network from the scratch. You just need to kind of install it on your laptop and press some buttons. It's quite straightforward, and it can show the proper connection between some devices in your network, and you can check the network traffic over there, just scan it. The showdown one, it's probably the same, but just a bit easier from the user perspective. I mean, they added some buttons, there are some more instructions over there, but the worst thing that disadvantage, it's a paid one. So, but if you're working for some company or have plenty of money to pay for that, go ahead. I mean, it's a great tool as well. But again, the first one, Nmap, it's open source, free of charge. Shodan is, I believe, 400 per year or something. But it, again, just scan your network at top level and can show you some particular information. So let's say high-level scanning, to assume that. Let's move forward, and if you need to scan the network in more details and receive some specific level information about calls, and monitor specific ones, you can use Wireshark and Zeek. So those two are quite the same ones. Both of them are open source. The main difference is that the Zeek is probably more high level, and it's again not as high level as those guys on the top, but just not so detailed as a Wireshark. So Wireshark provides you very good filter-based thing. You can filter on tremendous numbers of parameters. I mean, the network calls, the false positive stuff, the failures, the positive receivables, and each kind of send call can be monitored, and detailed information about that can be retrieved. The worst thing about it, if there are many devices in your network, it can work a bit slow because, as I said, it returns the detailed information about each packet. So, I mean, if there are too many packets, it will be slow. Next step is related to API and firmware checking, and this guy called Postman, I believe a lot of people here can hear about that because it's widely used not only for IoT testing, but just for API testing. So, but again, as I said, the part, and probably the very big part of IoT system, is some connection stuff, some network connection. So Postman easily covered such testing thing, and it's quite familiar for everyone and can be easily used as well. And Burp Suite, probably not kind of related to Postman, but you still can do it for the API and firmware stuff. The main difference here is the Burp Suite is focused more on security stuff, and you can kind of pause your request, change it somehow, and send it further, and it allows you to test the connection, I mean, from the security perspective. So on the Postman theme side, you just set the parameters, sending them out, but on Burp Suite, you can kind of interrupt your request and make some changes on the flight, which make it more useful for, let's say, cybersecurity engineers than Postman. And the last step, the penetration testing stuff. So if you're good enough, I mean, train it good enough to use all the tools from the first 3 points, and you kind of know pretty much about the network packets, about how the information is sent, you can go ahead and test everything like a penetration tester. And those two tools like ZAP and Metasploit, they built like an penetration testing frameworks and include some features which allow you to like test from the security side from the box. So it provides you some, let's say on a simple level, some kind of attacks examples like cross-site scripting, SQL injection, etc. But from the box, so you just don't need to set up a lot of things there. The cons of those tools, they are both paid. I mean, they have some free trial, but it's and the amount of features are cut a lot there. So, but anyways, they're good to go as well. And the next slide is about the security testing workflow and how it looks like. So, on the very first step, which I call dev, it's not development itself, it's just kind of pre-development phase, which include requirement gathering, some team discussion, everything before the real development is started. But after that, when this like pre-development phase is finished, so it's really good to make some threat modeling session. And what this means that you and your team, if you're responsible for this security testing or just like need to implement it to a product, just need to sit together and think like an attacker and like try to model some flows which can cause some vulnerabilities of your products. For example, you have some health-related mobile application, and in this case, you know that your main features are probably some patient's data, and to catch this data, you need to like, I mean, you can catch them through the monitoring the network request, through the access to your mobile device, or through the access to the network or cloud where they store to some database. So you have already this kind of breakpoint data and steps where the data is stored, and you need to think as a kind of attacker, how you will attack your own system. After that, knowing this like requirement analysis stage and the threat modeling, the secure coding should start. So I mean, the main difference between not real, but regular coding and secure coding, that you need to implement some additional security-related metrics on your code itself. So the next, I believe, not next, but the last 5 or even 10 years, the compliance thing became very popular on different organizations, and there are a lot of companies which provide these compliance verification services. So you need to kind of all your code, all your documentation, all your storage information, blah, 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 should be related to these compliance standards. And I mean, it will be very great if you create an product from scratch to think about it from the very beginning and just not make the changes in the very end when the product is on kind of placed on the production and end users already started using it, but just develop it secure. After the coding is finished, it's very important for us security engineers to perform some security testing on those. And again, you already know some tools which you can use in addition to the kind of regular security, not security, but quality assurance stuff. So you definitely will create some test plans, test strategies, some checklists, whatever, depends on complexity of your project. But just don't forget to add some like security, cybersecurity section, penetration section, which will cover some scenarios related to the safety of your data. I mean, it can be applied not only to IoT-related projects, but almost for everyone, because data is everywhere, and you can just integrate this security verification step on your already existing testing framework, and it will be not a big deal, but it can make great benefit in the very end. So after that, of course, deployment can happen, and the product goes to the stage environment or the production environment, and after that, continuous monitoring, because as everybody knows, let's say if each of those states covered even 110%, which requirement is covered, the coding is made as secure as possible, testing was done, and like 0 bugs was found in the very end. So it really interesting thing can happen in here when deployment was done, because real users can have different environments, different devices, different setup, everything, and you still need to kind of continue monitoring in the very end and gather the feedback from the users. Another interesting slide for those guys who need or want or kind of interested in setting up the automation framework on your project, or just kind of want to play this on your own, is the automation and the automation frameworks and tools which you can use and implement on your end, but related, with the focus to the IoT and cybersecurity testing. So of course, we can use it for regular automation, that's fine, but those tools are mostly related to the cybersecurity point of view. And the first one is a robot framework. So it's a great test automation tool for IoT projects. Very good from the multiple perspectives. So most of all from the acceptance testing and end-to-end testing view. And when your stakeholders are not too tech related, so they're just business guys, so robot framework allows to using some common language, some predefined libraries to cover the main, let's say, scenarios, and it will be easy to read to the end users and stakeholders to the very end, if they are not technical, of course. So PyTest is probably kind of related to the robot, but beneficially it should be used for, if this one is used for end-to-end and acceptance testing, this one should be used for low-level ones like unit test or probably integration tests, because it's mostly for the technical guys, for the developers, for the automation QAs, who can easily manipulate the code, the read code, the write it, and it's not so clear for the non-technical customers or stakeholders. The next one is Gmeter. So I don't know, guys, if you did some performance testing 15 years ago, but if so, even 20 years ago, you probably used Gmeter as well. So it's a quite old stuff, but it's still, let's say old but gold, it's still running well, and it's quite easy. The UI is outdated, of course, but you can easily implement it in your system in Java-based one. So, and performance in this case, just to create some load for your system, manipulate with a lot of thousands of users and see how it's, if the system is ready for DDoS attacks, something like that, or brute force stuff. And the last step, probably not for everybody, but if you or your company are already use some AWS or Azure infrastructure, so, and they already implemented there, it will be really great to add some AWS IoT Defender or Azure Defender, depends on your current setup. And it's really good cloud integration security monitoring system, because it's covering the most of already existing security issues, they kind of frequently updates, and they're really good in terms of securing your cloud integration from your hardware device or firmware to the cloud. the next slide, again, about some best practices, which all of you guys can start doing right now. It's kind of not related to those facts if you are like IoT testers or just like regular testers or just users of like IoT devices on daily basis. So it will help to everybody to increase the security level of your data. So the first one, and the very main one, I can repeat again, is to change the default credentials. So, I mean, if you kind of interested on that, just when you return to your homes, you can just log into your Wi-Fi router and check the credentials over there. And probably, I mean, I did some mistakes a few years ago. So, I mean, I just allowed some company to set up my internet connection in my home, and I noticed that they even don't change the like default admin stuff. So hopefully nobody used that and nobody connected to my home network and gathers information. But even the companies who setting up the networks in our homes are skipping this step. I mean, and just left it as it is, just default credentials. So the next one. To use encrypted communication channels. So everybody knows that probably there are different messengers we are communicated in, and some of them are more secure, some of them are less secure. So I just highly recommend to use more encrypted one just to save your communication data over there, because you can use them for the work, share some samples of code, like some ideas, requirements, whatever, and it's quite important as well. And the next one, it's probably the more specific technical related one, but still the basis, just to test API authentication and rate limits. What it means that in like not the most cases, but usually the authentication can use not secure data. So what it means that the passwords, the logins, and some user data can be sent in the public way, and it can be easily thrown by somebody who wants to do that. And rate limits is related to this performance stuff, that each system should definitely has some notable rate limits. I mean, if you suspect that your product will be used by thousands of users, so you need to handle that and think about that in the very beginning and set up your servers and like another infrastructure in that way that it should allow the 1,000 users to like use it in the same time. If it's like millions of users or billions of users, so the results should be the same. I mean, you should think about this in the very beginning and test it before launching it. Some fun fact and case study related to the IoT issues, especially IoT security issues, which was happened, I believe, 10 years ago in 2015. Quite old again, but it's personally my favorite because it's related to the Jeep Cherokee, and I owned the Jeep car some year ago. I mean, a few years ago, so it's kind of some personal thing, and I believe I was somehow a victim of this as well, or could be, because the I was using the same firmware that is described right here. So the attack happened in 2015, I believe, and the problem was that infotainment, I mean, it's information and entertainment system, which like includes in almost each current cars. I mean, just your like in this monitor you have in the car, so was exposed via the cellular network. So even like 10 years ago, it was possible to do that. So, I mean, just imagine what can be done right now when almost each car can be connected and is connected to the internet and to the Wi-Fi, whatever, just like use the maps, etc. So, and what was the exploit? So exploit was that researchers, or I like the word attackers, remotely took the control on the steering wheel, on the brake system. So, I mean, the fully control on your car. Of course, if you use kind of Tesla right now, so don't worry, guys, it's already done. So remote control of steering, brakes, etc. already kind of set up in your settings. But anyways, the 15 years ago, it was kind of big and unexpected thing because, you know, not a lot of people were thinking in this way that the car can be used and can be manipulated through the network connection from the third-party user. And I believe, based on statistical research, around 1.5 million of cars were recalled back. And of course, the public trust was lost, and the IoT regulations for the company, the level of IoT regulations was increased a lot. So the lessons learned from that you should never forget about security IoT testing, even it's a car. So, I mean, it still have some software inside it, and you should still like threat modeling of the network before car is produced and test the OTA updates. OTA stands for over the air updates, so just like remote updates not connected by the cable, and like segmentation between the entertainment system of your car and the controls of your car. So I mean, this wasn't tested, like it was tested in complex, but wasn't tested like separately from this perspective, and it was this issue I mentioned in the very beginning. Cool. Wow, it's that slide. So, just to make a short recap, what I was talking about here today, and I believe you guys kind of understand the IoT meaning, the Internet of Things meaning a bit better afterwards, and of course the risk which can be kind of covered by proper testing. Also the key tools and for testing itself and for frameworks as well, and how to build the secure testing like frameworks and approaches, and also how to improve your current experience, probably just a regular user of your kind of Internet of Things related device, or which is more important, if your job is related to that, how to improve some things of your job and make your products as better as possible and as secure as possible. If you're interested and want to kind of expand your background here, so I can recommend some books and some online resources over there. So it's like IoT security issues book and practical IoT hacking. It can be easily Googled. And the online resources, which I also think is very good ones, is OWASP IoT Top 10 Comprehensive Vulnerability Guide. So it's probably one of the best things which can be used by quality assurance engineers, just to, like, it's updated each year, and the priority of the let's say these top 10 vulnerabilities are changing based on the current market. So it's really good to check it over next year. And Hack the Box IoT Labs as well. So if you're kind of wondering in IoT plus penetration testing, so it will be, should be a good article to read as well. And yeah, I want to say a very big thank you for everybody here to listen me. If you have any questions, I mean, I'm ready to answer them. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, though. Any questions from the room?
Yeah, I'm thinking for cell phones or cars, they already applied all these testings and security implementations. But I'm wondering, do you know, let's say LG refrigerator, it's at my home, nobody cares about it. Why they hacked my refrigerator? I'm thinking, but also if I am an important person for the government, maybe they care. I'm thinking, do they apply these things? Do you know
I mean, they definitely apply, and as I said, the last 5 years, this kind of compliance stuff became higher and higher all over the companies, but still some simple things can be missed. And you know, when you set up your refrigerator, I mean, there is some portion of which is not covered by the company. I mean, the portions when you set up your personal account and you enter some credential connected to your home network, and this can be the step which you should pay attention a lot, because they probably covered something from the factory, I mean, side, and some just closed some open ports, let's say, and like some popular directions of attack, but they leave a lot of things on the user experience as well, you know, and you need to be careful when you setting up the things on your end.
Okay, they can access maybe to my network and to my.
It's one direction, yeah.
Possible, you think?
It depends on your Wi-Fi router settings, I mean, on another part of your network. So basically, from my experience, not the easiest way, but everything in your home network is connected to the router itself. So if the router has the kind of bad security, so no updated firmware or just like default credentials, it can be very easy way to get into. And after that, the attacker can sniff the information which is like moves between the router itself and any other part, like phone, refrigerator, etc. So probably and hopefully the manufacturers of those devices secured the way in which information is sent, but you never know. So
I'm thinking it would be a good prank to move my friend's vacuum cleaner.
yeah, definitely.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions from the room? Oh, yeah, Brian.
Another question is, you mentioned robot framework.
Yep.
What languages is that capable of writing?
So Python mostly, but it can be extended to Java, I believe, and JavaScript as well. So it supports some third-party libraries.
Any questions, Jason, from the chat?
No.
So you have, I think one thing everybody probably heard of is people looking at Ring cameras, right, and things like that. Is there a predominant hosting environment like AWS? Does they do most, or is it just spread out where most of the IoT is centralized?
Great question. So related to the Ring cameras, because they kind of belongs to Amazon, I believe they hosted AWS. So in those particular case, they mostly think about the AWS connection and this way of storage. But I had this camera as well in my home, and I know that it's possible to set up like another way of storage. You can store the data locally or like in some other ways. But other cameras allows you to store the data on the flash card, I mean the memory inside it, on the cloud as well, but in different clouds. So, and again, from my perspective, the Ring ones probably is a bit more secure than something from no name from Amazon. Just you can order for the $10 because they already thought about these like security connections and just covered them and pay some attention on that. But another things which kind of send in your info to some like no-name cloud probably can be more vulnerable than the Ring ones.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Definitely. Which one? This one?
Just want to make a note.
Right. I believe the presentation itself should be shared, yeah?
Yes, all the presentations, videos, and the slides will be, you will have a link emailed to you after the conference.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again.
Actually, I have
Oh,
one
question.
for sure.
Do you know, is there any legal enforcement for this? Because I'm thinking, let's say, smart traffic lights. It will be a disaster if somebody controls it. Is there any law enforcement to check this kind of stuff, you know?
I believe they are, and I mean, almost everybody of us can see or saw the movie when, I mean, some bad guy controls the traffic lights on like cars itself, and it's really disaster over there. But it's not a fiction more. I mean, it's possible scenarios, and the bad thing that the attacker can even watch the movie and it brings him an idea what can be done, you know. And I saw recently, I mean, probably somewhere in the Europe, I believe, that student or even school hackers just like connected to the billboards, I mean, to the ads shields on the shops, you know, just like some ad screens, and just send their own information there. I mean, some like appropriate or even inappropriate one. So it's quite easy to do, even when a school guy can do that, you know, because the owners of the shops didn't pay a lot of attention on that, and it just bought this TV or the screen, which is showing some information about the shop, but they kind of, I mean, it's a really not too important, and it's just a kid's joke, you know, just sending some inappropriate thing over there. But let's think about if it's like some important big billboard which shows some like government related information, or maybe information about some nature disaster, you know, and you can like easily broke it and like send whatever you want there. So it can confuse people and like make some panic.
And just to that, there's two regulations that are pretty prevalent in the IoT aspect. So the Cybersecurity Improvement Act of 2020 in the US dictates the way that devices should be produced, managed, and then worked on from there. And then the Cyber Resilience Act in the EU. So those two are good ones to look at. The US one's based on NIST standards, and it's a little bit higher. A lot of that as well is in regards to buying devices from other countries that do not have that protection on them. So you would have probably run across that aspect with a lot of other cameras bought from other places which have other software and potential for more issues. But those two acts are pretty good ones to check out.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for noting that. And another one, I mean, one more thing shared on this slide. So if you guys want, don't hesitate to connect me on LinkedIn. If you have any other questions, or just send me an email here. So I will be happy to answer, and let's get connected. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.